Morning, everyone. On behalf of the whole House, let me say how shocked and heartbroken I am by the murder of innocent churchgoers in Charleston. At times like this, the depth of our grief reveals the depth of our love and our resolve. And our prayers go out to all the victims' families. And our thoughts go to the law enforcement officers working to bring this perpetrator to justice. Anyone who would do something so unspeakable is pure evil. Today, the House continues its work to advance the people's priorities. Republicans are working with Democrats in the House and Senate to pass Trade Promotion Authority. We're committed to ensuring that both Trade Promotion Authority and Trade Adjustment Assistance pass the House and Senate and go to the President for his signature. Getting this work done is critical to expanding opportunities for American workers and American-made goods. Another priority for the American people is lower health care costs. And despite the many promises, Obamacare is not delivered. So this week, the House is acting on solutions to help families and foster innovation, from strengthening Medicare Advantage to repealing the medical device tax. In addition, the Supreme Court could soon make a ruling that leads to millions of Americans losing their health care subsidies. Our goal is to provide peace of mind to families who have coverage disrupted through no fault of their own. Obamacare is fundamentally broken, increasing costs for millions of American families. And the plan we're working on will focus on protecting the American people, offering new choices for quality, affordable health care, and not protecting this failed law. Yesterday, we had a constructive meeting with our members, received good feedback that will help inform us as we continue to develop our plan. Lastly, there may be no priority that Americans take more seriously than supporting our military. But later today, Senate Democrats are planning to block a pay raise for our troops. Democrats intend to hold up the troop funding in order to extract more money for the IRS and EPA and all of their other priorities. Now, my hope is that Democrats who vote to make promises to our troops won't turn around and vote against their funding. Our military doesn't get to have it both ways. Their job is to win, and our job is to make sure that they've got the resources to win and come back home safely. And of course, it's our privilege to give these men and women the raise that they have earned. Some Democrats should think long and hard before going through with this. I think it'd be a grave mistake to stand in the way of funding for our troops. Yes, ma'am.
The Democrats say that they want to start budget negotiations next week. Given that you do need 60 votes to get bills through the Senate, spending bills, why would that be a good idea?
Well, the House has passed the Department of Defense appropriation bill, and it's time for the Senate to do the same. And, people have ideas. They should put the ideas on the table. I have not seen any of those ideas at this point.
Mr. Speaker, could you comment on the Pope's encyclical on climate change, and will it spur congressional action?
Well, one thing we know about this Pope is that he's not afraid to challenge everyone's thinking on issues, frankly, one way or another. And I admire his dedication to the poor and his work to protect the sanctity of life. And frankly, I respect his right to speak out on these important issues.
But it won't spur any action by Congress?
There's a lot of bills out there. I'm not sure where in the process these bills may be.
On the potential Obamacare bridge replacement, my words, whatever, if the Supreme Court rules, you mentioned protecting people who are going to lose coverage through no fault of their own, which makes some sense. It's millions of people. Why coalesce around a policy here that is going to cause a political fight, repealing the individual mandate? We all understand your opposition to Obamacare. Why not extend subsidies and get some concessions on some other things that Republicans want, instead of doing something that's going to be veto bait and have a clash over Obamacare and potentially end subsidies for people?
Well, clearly, we're interested in protecting those millions of Americans who could lose their subsidies. But as I said, we are not interested in protecting a fundamentally broken law. And we're doing everything we can to increase choices for Americans, lower cost, and increase the quality of the health care they get, which is all being undermined by Obamacare.
But knowing that the president feels exactly opposite of that and can never sign a repeal of the individual mandate in these intervening times before an election, if the subsidies are repealed in these states and Americans with health insurance is the concern, doesn't it make more sense to get some concessions that you can and extend those subsidies until an election?
We have an obligation to do what our constituents ask of us. And I think our position on Obamacare has been perfectly clear for years now, and frankly has not changed. As a matter of fact, I would point out that the more we learn about Obamacare, the more we learn just how fundamentally broken it really is.
Mr. Speaker, do you feel, having negotiated the procedure for the TPA and TEA with the minority leader, did you feel double-crossed when she voted with her party to defeat that?
Well, let me first say that when we were talking about Trade Promotion Authority and trade adjustment assistance over the last few weeks, I worked with Leader Pelosi. I also worked with Republican members who had concerns about both the process and the pay-fors. But I think I'll just keep my comments to myself with regard to how I feel about the leader's actions.
Well, the leader previous to this said she doesn't see a path for TAA. Is she right or wrong, and do you expect the current procedure in place to work out?
I do. We're going to have Trade Promotion Authority. We're going to have this vote here pretty soon. I'm confident that we're in a pretty good place. And I'm also confident that as the Senate considers both TPA again and trade adjustment assistance as part of the preferences package, that it hopefully will be back here as soon as next week so that we can move both of these to the president.
Do you expect to vote next week on that?
I would hope that the Senate would move it back, the preferences bill back here late next week so that we can actually move it on to the president.
Has McConnell indicated if he's going to do TPA first for the preferences bill, and does it matter?
I don't know. You have to talk to Senator McConnell.
Have you and President Obama learned anything about this process and sort of the way your negotiating skills work that can be applied to something like the next budget deal?
I would describe most of what's gone on in the last 3 weeks as close to bizarre. I don't think I've learned anything from it.
Mr. Speaker, you haven't been very close to the president over the past 6 or 7 years, but in the past, in recent,
Whoa. Really?
well, in recent weeks, though, I mean,
No, that's just not fair. The president and I, while we may have our disagreements on policy issues, the president and I have enjoyed a very good working relationship. And frankly, there's never been any kind of an issue. So
Can you think of another issue on which you've worked as closely with him as compared with trade?
if you give me enough time, I'm sure I could. But there are a number of issues we've worked with the president on, and trade is another one, where we find common ground, we're able to work together and get things accomplished on behalf of the American people. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.